resolutions.
Okay. Call this meeting to order. Please stand for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening, and thank you all for coming. Tonight is our annual September meeting. Start off with superintendent's report.
You want to go through one recognition?
Yeah, I know I've got some, but I think there's other people.
Ryan had submitted the one.
Oh, Ryan, you want to go?
Yeah. Do you want me to go up?
Yeah.
All right. Hello. All right. My name's Ryan Overmiller. Obviously, I'm on the school board, but I'm also the executive director of Dylan's Hope Foundation. Along with me tonight is the rest of the family and the rest of the board. So from my right is Jason and Sarah, which was Dylan's brother, and Jason's wife, Joyce Osby, which was Dylan's mom, and the president of the organization. My wife, Jenny, which is also a first grade teacher, and then all of Dylan's nieces and nephews. As all of you already know, with what we do with Dylan's Hope, we help with mental health and suicide prevention, and last year we were able to make a great contribution to help cover the greater, I believe it's the Greater Minnesota outside contract to help with the services for the middle school, intermediate school, and primary school. As we have found, there's been more services needed, so that contract continuously goes up. Also, part of our thing, once a year, our annual fundraising, Dan, you're wrecking my mojo here. Our annual event is a golf event, which was our second year at Pebble Creek Golf Club. And last year we broke a record. We had 182 golfers. We had 64 corporate sponsors, and we were able to raise $30,000, of which we gave $14,000 last year. And then also we help bring in a speaker every year, which in about another month we've got Terrence Talley coming in, which Dylan's Hope is covering the funding for that. And we also do some other stuff. This year, I'm proud to say that we broke our last year's record, and we had 195 golfers this year. We had 71 sponsors, and we raised $35,000. Of that, with our success and talking with Kevin on what the needs are with the Greater Minnesota and helping to get our bridges grants and so on behalf of my family and the Dylan's Hope Foundation organization, we would like to present a check to Becker Public Schools in the amount of $25,000.
You want to take that?
Let Bill get a good picture. Come on. That's primarily why I have it in here. Aaron, Jeremy, do you want to the whole family? With the whole family? The whole family. Wow, come on up here. Just go in front, you guys can hold the check. Perfect.
You're kidding me, right?
I'm in the perfect spot.
Fantastic.
Perfect.
Thank you guys.
I was gonna ask, what was coming? Are you ready?
I'm going to bed.
So the,
Yeah, you're kind of big.
we accepted their proposal for the next 3 years.
Thank you all for coming.
Thank you, Ryan and family. All right, now we can move on to superintendent's report.
Right, the fall staff development program we had, back to school workshops and general session was great. We had on August 29th, on Thursday, we had a school board member showed up for the breakfast, which was wonderful to see, and I want to thank you guys who came, and I know some of you had other commitments as well, but I thought that was very good, and I had some many positive comments on that from staff members. The main theme of the address that I gave was, why are you here? And I kind of gave a backstory of what got me to how I got to Becker Public Schools, and you know, it was the reason we're here, and how it takes so many different people and so many different everybody that works here and works in the district, and how they play a part in the success of our schools, and how they played a part in my success growing up, and all the way from the bus driver, the custodians, the athletic director, my teachers, of course, and everyone that impacts students. And I just wanted to kind of tell them how important they are, whether they realize it or not, how important they are in the education of our children. We did multiple trainings. We redid Alice training. We did a refresher on that. We also did it with new staff members as well, a new course. On the Alice training, multi-tiered system of success, PBIS, PLCs, all those were at building level programs. And then we all had B-Fest again, and I don't know what attendance has been in the past, but it looked really good this last time. And that was the administrators and the cabinet members who sponsored that event, and it was really good turnout in my mind. The test results from the MDE were released, and those results were also presented to the staff members, and we talked a lot about maintaining or improving areas in the progress indicators. So if you were to look at the attachment, the progress, kind of where we spent a bulk of our time. Our test scores are obviously continually above the state averages, and so I kind of emphasize the progress part of it, because that's where we want to be. We want to, continue to be at the top, but we also want to continue to improve in those areas, and that's obviously a board goal as well, with the Z-scores and things like that. I've been able to meet with a variety of groups and organizations over the last month, try to get my feet on the ground and try to get a lot of different perspectives throughout the community and different groups. And I encourage anyone that I met with to invite me into their organization, to their group, or anything like that, if they want to learn more about the school, or to give me a tour of their businesses or industries. And so I've thrown that invitation out there. I throw it out there again. The most recent one we had last Friday, I met with the House Finance Committee with the county and city, and it was on Channel 5 News if you watch Channel 5. But some of the things that they're looking to do is out in the industrial park. They have 1,000 acres that they're looking to get industry and businesses into, and they're asking the state for about $25 million to help with the infrastructure and things like that. And the Senate group comes out tomorrow morning, and I'll be at that at City Hall as well. September 23rd is the date that came back as far as a meet date for a school board workshop from all of you, and so we'll have it on that date, on Monday at 6:30. And then just a reminder, the October school board meeting is October 14th, because I'll be at the MESA Fall Conference in Duluth on October 7th, and this was something I think you guys already had down from January as well. So. Thank you.
A couple of things, and I sent you some notes earlier. So the MCAs and the assessment results, was the MCA? No, was it, which one was it I asked about? I guess it was actually the
Z-score.
The Z-score one. Yeah, the
third
grade isn't there because we're switching over from NWEA to MCA?
Yes, because the calculations through those, going from one test to the other, assessment. You're not able to calculate a year's worth of growth because you're coming from apples to oranges essentially. And the same thing with kindergarten to first grade. You don't have that year of growth from year to year, but we do the fall to spring for NWEA. So.
Okay. So we'll see that fall to spring, not...
But you wouldn't be able to do year-over-year growth
Right.
like we would do, so third grade, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 10th, and 11th, we're able to do year-over-year growth like it says in the district goal setting.
Okay.
Any other questions? Right.
I think I had the question on, so the question on the MCAs had to do more with the high school. So we're still seeing about 20% or more than 20% are missing more than 10% of school. Yeah, or so on.
Yes, and I know that's one thing the high schools had on their radar, and something that we'll continue to focus on is the attendance at the high school level. There are a lot of different factors that come into play on that, and the comparison that we have on the sheet, on the document that's on the board packet, compares the high school to the district and statewide average, and elementary grades certainly have much better attendance than high school does, but it's still something that I think we need to improve on, and it's something that's been identified at the high school level to be a focus.
The state's bar is not really high. I mean, it's measuring a 90%. That's like you said, you get a miss one.
90% attendance, yeah.
If it's 1 out of every 10 days, that's not a real high bar. That doesn't even, I mean, doesn't even get you, what do you have to, if you miss 10, or I don't remember what the rules are anymore. How many days can you miss?
For truancy?
Yeah.
There's some county laws that go into effect, but
Yeah, I mean,
14 is kind of...
that's close to truancy there where you don't get it past the grade, so I mean, I think that there's probably some work that could be done there, so I really can say that.
Well, and I guess what doesn't show to me, or what I'm trying to understand with that, is are they intending to miss school, being truant, or is that lack of attendance really excused type things where they're going to other activities that are, I'll call them educational in nature, whether they're, some sort of job type thing or college visits, or what is it that they're missing school for?
It could be any of those. There's a lot of different variables that come into play there, whether it's illness or it is events, sports, or activities, and things like that. And so that's something we have to kind of fine-tune and dive into to see what it is, and then also the correlation between whether that's affecting test scores or not. And so
Right.
Certainly things we have to look
Yeah,
at.
whether or not it's affecting the math, I think I asked particularly about the math score and that kind of stuff, because that's the one that's kind of below average for the high school, if that's a factor in that. I like to be a data-driven person and trying to understand, what does that mean? And so between you and the high school administration, I hope we're digging down into that.
Well, I know the high school has done that in the past, and will continue to.
I played with the math a little, engineers that are. It's 40 kids in the high school, right, that are less than the 90% mark. We do the math, which just that number alone kind of blew me away. It's like 40 kids really not meeting that 90% mark, which means somewhere between 90 and 95%. There's probably another 40 to 80 kids that, they're missing 1 day out of every 20, so that's a day a month. So we had a really good presentation here, what was it, about a year ago, where we talked about one of the mental health things we do is we try to, for each kid, try to find where's their connection point. Is it their bus driver? Is it the coach? Is it the teacher? Is it the, I think the exercise, my question is, those 40 kids, have we gone through that exercise of where's their touch point? Who do they connect with in the school? So, I just would encourage us to keep digging into that.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Well, again, I hate to keep hammering, but if we're talking PSEO being, absences and stuff like that, that's really educational, or if they're, I don't know if it's counted as an absence when they go to, an online class or something, or if they're something else outside that they're doing educational,
is that counted as an absence, and are we truly missing those kids? I mean, they just don't know.
Yeah, and like I said, there's a lot of variables that come into play there, and that'll be something we'll kind of crack in on and see when we set goals with the admin team and stuff.
I mean, parts of me really wants to react and say we need to do something about that, but then I'm held back by the fact of not knowing.
You just got the data in your hands,
Yeah.
so.
Well,
But I think it would be fair to ask for a follow-up, maybe not next board meeting, but 60 days from now, could we have a follow-up on, hey, we looked at the numbers, we looked at the names, here's, we're doing something with the kids that are, in those 40 kids, maybe it's not 40 kids, maybe 38 of them are going to special classes or something, I don't know, but if we could have something in 60 days or whatever works for you,
Yeah.
I'd really like more.
Yeah, that's certainly feasible. One of the things we've done so far this year is we've met as an entire admin group. I haven't even started the individual meetings with them to work on their goals and things like that because we had so many new, including myself, new staff members. As we do that, as I meet with Mr. Kreft at the high school, and that'll be something we can certainly talk about and
Thank you.
kind of narrow down.
It's week one.
I start
Oh,
on
we're all chomping at the bit.
Wednesday. I start meeting with the admin at 1-on-1, so that's when we'll kind of get down to that nitty-gritty stuff. And right now, we're just trying to keep everyone on the same page and things like that.
I get it.
Another number,
That work?
Yeah,
Follow-up?
that'd be great.
I'm curious in knowing, how does our high school attendance compare to those other school attendance? I mean, the graph just shows Minnesota attendance, and again, that's K through 12, how does it compare to other high schools? So, all righty, thank you. Committee reports, do we have any other committee reports? All right, moving on to item number 3, consent agenda.
Move the consent agenda.
I'll second.
We have a motion to approve consent agenda as listed before us. Do we have any questions or discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Item number 4, approve preliminary payable 2019 levy. Kevin, this is you.
Yeah, and it's actually the 2020 levy, but there's a typo on there. I handed out to you 4 sheets, and the first 3 are the individual funds of what the proposed dollar amounts are. We just got these today, pressed from the state. But as you'd see on the first page right away, this year's to last year's, you'll see right away that it's $1.7 million more, and that's because the state does not allow you to put the operating referendum that's coming up for renewal here in November. Once that would pass, then we put the numbers back in here. So, and you'll see the numbers, line 1 and 3. You'll see 3 going up. What that's about is the state changed the local optional levy. They increased it from 424 to 724. So you'll see that portion going up. But when the referendum passes, you'll see the $1.97. That will go up about $1.3 million to just renew the levy that was there, and then the other $700,000 is that movement down. So you still see a decrease in that line 1 because of that increase in line 3. The state just moved it, is what they did, that $700,000. And then down in number 10, that's the second question, and that's why there's a 0 there in the current year's proposed levy. So that's the technology levy is down. So it's kind of hard to show numbers because they're not apples to apples here because of the operating referendum not being in it. But the state doesn't allow you to put it in there until it actually passes. Second page is the community ed levy. There you'll see the main difference is school age care levy. Our expenses are higher than what they were in previous years, so we're able to levy for those expenses. And what it is it's really for the special ed students in child care. That's what that levy is. And then the debt service levy is there you'll see we have in the third item, and what this levy requires us to do is levy 105% of our principal and interest, but then the state takes a look at what you have in our fund balance for debt service, and if it's too high, then they back it off and say, use your fund balance, pay part of your principal and interest, so that they lower the levy then for that. So you'll see that there's a reduction there. And the overall, it just adds the three funds together. And again, you can see that, sure, it's got that decrease, but because of the operating referendums, two questions, the dollar amount's not being in there. That's why.
So if both questions pass, what?
If both questions pass, the general fund, will be about $330,000 increase, which is about a 3%. It would be about a 3% overall increase. Both questions pass.
So maybe I've seen too many numbers. So instead of negative 1.7, we'll see positive,
Yeah. About
positive 300,000.
Between 300 and 400,000, because, there's some of these
Right.
others that
Yep.
are a
All
little
right.
upper
Now I'm with you.
You
All
know what
right.
I mean? So,
Yep.
I mean, anywhere between 300 and 400,000, because I didn't add up all these other negatives that some of them went down.
And I'm sorry, Kevin, some things just popping into my mind based on some questions that people have been asking me.
Yep.
So, if that whole thing with Google, the Google facility and that kind of stuff,
Mhm.
we can't figure any of that in here because they're not here yet.
Correct.
But that's going to have a positive tax impact on us, correct? We're going to get some additional revenues from that?
We won't get any additional revenues. It'll have a positive impact on the taxpayers.
Okay.
So what it does is right now, we have our total levy.
Yep.
Okay, and then it's spread across all of the property values within the district. But then, if you all of a sudden get a, $65 million facility, what that does is that increases the values to spread the same dollar amounts over that,
Okay.
which
I
means,
get it.
which
Yeah.
means then it'll lower everybody
Lower everybody else's
taxes by whatever that.
You were looking forward to like 4% of $65 million.
No,
That'll help.
So we don't get any more revenue because our revenue is just,
Right.
it's based strictly on the students. Now, hopefully, more people would move into Becker, that, workers, then we get more kids, then our revenues would go up.
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, I just had somebody ask me,
Yep.
does that mean that your bonds get paid out quicker? I said, I don't think so.
No.
I think it just spreads it out.
And in theory, if something like that were to happen, our student count probably goes up if more people are
Probably.
moving in, and it always kind of equals out in a way.
Yeah. It's okay. I just want to be able to answer the people.
Yep. For
Got that, Bill?
For us, it would be a tax reduction to people's values, they were splitting it upon a smaller number
Yeah.
before, now it gets split about that same number to a larger amount, so everybody else's would go down, so.
Yeah, I get it. Thank you.
Okay.
I have a question too. So what will the decommissioning of the Sherco plant do with this operating referendum?
I would think the same thing in reverse, right?
Well, we don't have 100% of those. The state has some of those values. I think we get about 50% of the value. So
Okay.
we would, it would have the reverse effect.
And by, you think about 50% or?
But they still have the properties, as long as the properties are still there. Now, they may devalue them, it may say, okay, now that they're not running, they're not worth this amount,
Well, every year.
but the
they've
building's
been-
still gonna be worth something.
Well, and every year they've been devaluating now for 2 years. They've been going down by about 2, it was 7.5% last year, 2% this
This
year.
year.
So that does have a little bit of an impact.
That
on-
does have some impact.
Okay, on the referendum, not so much on our general
On our
operating.
total revenues, no.
Right, okay. Okay.
Need a motion to approve preliminary.
And sorry to make the motion at the maximum, because the state, in the preliminary, you have to do the maximum in case the state has some things that they have to fix. Well, then the operating referendum passes, you gotta be able to add that in
This
later
is
on,
the same-
in the final one.
This is the same game every year.
Yep.
Right with the max.
I move that we set the maximum 2020 levy.
I'll second.
Any further discussions or questions on the motion? All those in favor to approve preliminary payable 2020 levy at the max, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Item number 5, resolution appointing election judges.
I'll move the approval of this resolution. Then I have just have a kind of an administrative question.
So I have a motion. Do I have a second? Okay.
So my administrative question is, I don't know how we keep getting the language where this requires a roll call vote for these resolutions. Is that just standard from MSBA, or?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not sure that
It
it's
might be
required.
statute, but I know I've always
But the
done this.
language of the resolution says that, so then we have to do that.
Yeah.
So I don't know if we can find some different language for these resolutions or not. I'm just asking the administrative question.
No,
and then we can move on.
I guess I don't know if you can change it or not, but I've always done a roll call vote on anything related to the election.
Okay. So we have a motion to approve the resolution appointing election judges. Roll call vote. Mark?
The other thing I would say is that I looked at the list, and there's about an equal split between the city and the township and the election judges. I mean, I'm familiar with all these things. I've been on the list myself on these. It looks like an equal split, so I think it makes sense that those are the election judges that we're using.
It looks pretty similar to what we've had in the past. Okay, roll call. All those in favor say aye. All those against say nay. Mark?
Aye.
Jason?
Aye.
Lori?
Aye.
Aye. Connie?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Moving on to item number 6, adopting policies. This is bringing back the policies that we had our first reading on last month. Policy 419, tobacco-free environment. Policy 603, curriculum development. Policy 616, school district assessment accountability. 618, assessment of standard achievements. And question and answer, attendance age limits. We kind of got into 603 last month about some wording in there as far as who's in charge. And then we had some discussion about age limits. So, Jeremy, you want to speak to those?
Sure. I called MSBA, Tony Morrow at MSBA, and he spoke to the statutory obligation, their statute that we allow anyone up to age 21 who has not met certain guidelines and certain learning indicators that the opportunity for free education. Now, he also said in the same conversation that doesn't mean they have to be in your general population. For red ed students, they can be given adult basic ed, which would be like toward a GED, or you could have a separate school for them, night school type of thing, or some other type of programming for them. And he referred to statutes 120A.20 and 124D.52, which is the admission to public school, the age limits for that, and then an adult basic ed is the 124D.52. So you're able to meet those needs. So if students are up to age 21 and have not graduated, if they have been enrolled if they take off more than 21 days, they're not eligible for that free education. But there are a number of stipulations that they need to meet. But schools typically don't allow them in the general ed population if they're regular ed students at those ages.
And we had some wording change on 603 as far as curriculum direction.
So the original, or your previous approval, was the Director of Curriculum and Instruction Just kind of going to, I wasn't real clear on the feedback on that one, but we did change that to Assistant Superintendent of Curriculum and Instruction to kind of match up with the job title. Obviously, I oversee that position, and so I would be the one ultimately held accountable for that, but the person who would be taking the steps that are included in 603 would be the Assistant Superintendent of Curriculum and Instruction. Previously, it was the Director of Curriculum and Instruction position, which is the same. It's the same. We just changed the name. You guys changed the name a year or two ago, I suppose.
Yep. Okay. Any further questions or discussions on these 4 policies? Do we want to move them separately or as a
Motion
group?
to accept all 4 together.
Second.
We have a motion to accept all 4 policies as listed. Any discussion or questions on those? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Brings us to item 7, the resolution proposal for MSBA Delegate Assembly.
Yeah, and I can speak to this. I was the only one that was nominated to be added to the Delegate Assembly from Becker here. Annually, MSBA holds a Delegate Assembly to set the legislative policy agenda and bringing that stuff to legislature. So all of these things where we're seeing changes in our policies, where it comes from some statute in Minnesota law, that often does come from MSBA's lobbying effort to the Minnesota legislature to change the laws accordingly to help school districts out. So the resolution and the form is in your board, is in the board packet. The resolution can come from the school board, or it can come from individual school members just submitting them. It doesn't require that it goes through the board. It just goes through to the Delegate Assembly. The Delegate Assembly then would pass or not pass those things. And what happens is those resolutions get submitted, then the MSBA Executive Board does some research on them and decides whether or not those things, that they're going to basically endorse it or oppose it. And then it's presented to the Delegate Assembly, and each year I've brought back the packet that comes from the Delegate Assembly. Usually there's about 15 to 20 resolutions coming from various either school board members or school boards around the state. So that's what that all is all about. Unfortunately, we're on a fairly short timeline, and I didn't have any resolutions that would be ready to bring to the school board tonight. But Ryan, I think about things like the mental health things and having the state support that through education funding and those types of things would be good resolutions for us to be sending to MSBA. So I wanted to make sure that was brought forward to the school board for your considerations.
When does this typically, I'm not familiar with this in my past experience, but when does this document become available? I mean, because it's got to be turned in by the September 27th.
Right. But there's a lot of school boards that don't have their meeting the first Monday, so it's usually those that it can go to the school boards, because it really didn't become available until
So it was when I received it.
right, until the nominations and all that kind of stuff is finalized and all that kind of stuff. So but it's roughly the same form each year. So I mean, we could use it again and again. So I mean, it's an annual assembly that they set that legislative agenda. So it doesn't necessarily have to be even done this year. It could be something we want to consider for next year.
Sure.
And they do take these up to, I mean, they allow the delegates, myself being one of them again, to bring those resolutions up until the day of the assembly. So it's not like, they like to have this ahead of time again so that the executive committee can do that research, decide whether they're going to support it or not, provide any other background that is necessary. If you've seen it before, that has some extensive research that the staff at MSBA does on each of the resolutions to say whether or not it should move forward or not.
So is this a technical form? And what I mean by that is does it have to represent this? So if we kept this on file and basically chose, May, June, July of next year to start talking about a resolution, that we wanna bring next year. We could use this so we had our template
Yep.
in place, approve it, whatever, so then when the next year's form comes, all we have to do is check the box that we approved it,
Yep.
and then send it off to,
To MSBA.
yeah.
Yep.
'Cause I like your idea, like with the mental health and stuff, maybe we can formulate a,
Well, and again, typical resolutions have been to support funding for special education. Those types of things are part of the legislative agenda. Okay, so. Any other questions? There's no motion to go along with it, I just wanted to have it presented.
So, thank you. Brings us to number 8, review of 1920 superintendent goals, and the question was, why is this on here if there's no goals? Jeremy and I met last week to set the agenda, and I wanted to put it on here because I just want to talk about, for the past 8 or 9 years, September was always the time that we went over superintendent goals. Dr. Millen had brought them forward, and then we went through those. And Jeremy had talked about it a couple minutes ago, that there's so many new people that I think he needs some time to get to know everybody he was working with. Take his first month of school, he could get out and meet all the employees and everybody. And I think it was important that we give him some time to get a feel of the school district and what's going on before we ask him to actually set the goals and bring them to the board. So I just wanted to put that on there just to make sure we kind of speak to that.
I'm a big believer in the 90-day plans, first 90-day plans, and then in a job now. You came in July, but you didn't have an active school session yet, so you gotta have your first 90 days to observe and then I'm sure all of us really want to hear you come back and say, all right, the first 60, 90 days, this is what I see based on my experience, because we've all been here sitting in it, so, we're used to things, and there's probably things that you're gonna see, it's like, wow, there's a better way, so, I'm really looking forward to that conversation, more so than just you writing out, oh, I'll have this done by the end of the year. So, yeah, I support that.
Yeah, and if you were to say I have a goal right now, it is just to meet people and gather all that input. And I've been out in the schools and the buildings already, and in the week we've had so far, and I'm going to continue to do that, to gather that, and I respect that. Thank you.
So while I agree with what you're saying and giving you some time to do it, you also though, if we go past now, is it next month, is it November, what month is that you're gonna come back with that? And again, trying to let you understand, get your feet underneath you and tell us when, but I think it's also incumbent upon us to say, well, it can't keep sliding, so when is a good expectation that we should see those superintendent goals being set?
Well, I think that first week in November is fine, if that works with you guys, because our meetings are so early in the month.
We'll talk about that at the end here, that we might move our November meeting, but, so you're saying the November school board meeting is what you're thinking?
I'd be, more comfortable then, to really present something at that point. I know one of the things and looking back at Dr. Malone's goals as well, is a lot of them were very, very similar to the district goals, and I'll probably make mine similar to that, but I'd also like to have something else in there that I see, and I think I alluded to that last month, where I was talking about changing up some of that process and some of the things that we have going forward and setting goals and things like that. And I've just now started meeting with directors and things like that for their goals as well, so I've given them through the middle of October. If I've met with them, and some of them I haven't even met with, so they'll have till the middle of October to get their goals kind of streamlined and nailed down.
All right. Any other discussions on that? Okay, thank you. Moving on to item 9, first reading of 2020-21 board goals. And last time we went through these, we had some input, and we asked superintendent to bring them back and kind of play with the wordsmithing a bit and stuff.
I like the cleanup, I like the.
Yeah. So again, first reading, so, look it over if there's something that you like to change or see that a need for changing.
The only one that jumped out at me is if we're, the last on the financial goal, the target of meeting the fund balance by 2026, makes sense. It's about a 5-year plan. It's good. I don't get a clear picture of when we'll have the plan in place. We're not going to wait till 2026 to create a plan. You understand what I'm saying? So by the end of the fiscal year 21, we'll have a plan for 26, or by the end of 20, where are we going to target having that plan done?
So you're saying add a date in there that says we'll have the plan in place by...
Yeah, like the test score ones are driven by when the tests are given, we get the results. We have no control over that. That's pretty much set. Some of the other ones, it's like, are we going to wait till the end of 2021? Where's the target for getting them accomplished? Just a little bit more clarity on,
So do you have a suggestion? Does someone have a suggestion on when we want to see those?
I want to give maximum flexibility to what works. I just haven't given it that much.
I mean,
Well,
Well, it would be,
I was just gonna say, again, I'm just using the graph that we use to kind of set our dollar amount for the fiscal thing. That basically put us at year 4 of 5, so do we wanna put some, not date or a percentage as our indicator? We'll have 2%, we'll have 4%, we'll have 6%, we'll have 8% by the respective years up through 2026. Not put necessarily a date, but a fiscal year. Because again, in theory, if, knock on wood, our numbers are right, we're actually going to be able to check that off. I think, if I remember the spreadsheet, in a year right at 2026, and and if we're using the method, we've got to figure out if we are achieving each year our 2% or whatever. If we're up or down. If we're down, then we've got to relook at the goal and figure out how we're going to either make up that difference or what have you.
Yeah, because I think kind of aligned with that, my feedback would be, that if the progress indicator is that we achieve it in 2026, that's too late. We got to know 2021, 2022, 2023, are we on track to achieve that?
You want a target for each year.
So,
Yeah.
but that would kind of be in the plan.
That would be
that
creating a
talked
plan.
about in the
Well,
exit,
Yeah.
right?
Probably.
So if we create a plan, which is the exit outcome area, that states that will be, and we'll obviously know way more in November than we know right now. So I think setting a deadline to have a plan in place is the important piece. And the plan itself then should have indicators of, we need to be at 2% of this year, we need to, don't you think?
well, and remember, these are 2020, 2021
Next year.
goals, and I don't think it's unrealistic to have the goal completed during that year, not the goal, the plan completed that year. And so, I don't know at what point in that year, or by the end of the year, or whatever, but,
I was trying to go back through some old board notes and find out what we've done in past years for some of these bigger concept goals, and I just can't find what I was looking for. But I think some of the ones, the other one, like college career readiness, should we point to a date that says, hey, are we going to be satisfied if it's by the end of 2021 we have an idea to implement in 2022, or does the end of 2021 mean we've actually done something in 2021 to improve the career readiness? So, That's all I was reading into some of these, the way these were written. Otherwise, I think they're very well written, I just think we need to target
Yep.
some, completion dates as a team.
And I would suggest for that fourth goal, the fund balance one, that we would set that target for the plan somewhere between the end of June and next September, because that's the end of our fiscal year, and that's when Kevin's doing all of his preliminary stuff for the following year.
That was my only feedback, so it's just,
Okay.
just a little more clarity on the when.
All right. Any more input or discussion on board goals?
So we'll vote on those next time, is that?
Yep, those will come back and be voted on next time. That brings us to item 10, discussion on November board meeting date. And this one here is, we are scheduled for the first Monday in November, and then the next day is the vote. Then we have to come back to canvas. So the discussion is, do we want to move the whole meeting? The following Monday would be Veterans Day, which I'd say no. Or do we just want to set up a meeting where we come in and have our short meeting to canvas it and be done
Oh, we did it last time.
Canvas it within 3 days.
within 3 days?
Yeah, 3 to 10 days.
Yeah, you have a window of 3 days to 10 days.
Which one of those days is Veterans Day?
Right.
The 8th to the 15th would be this.
On it? So, but we still have school that day, right?
On the
That's
11th?
Tuesday?
On the 11th?
Yeah.
I mean, it's not a, well, it's a national holiday, it's not a school holiday.
Right.
Right.
And we've typically had meetings on a holiday if we have school.
Yeah, typically we've convened as long as there's school, yeah.
On President's Day, you've done that?
I don't know if we've done it on President's Day, but we have had school board meetings. If there's school in session during the holiday, and it's supposed to be one of our board nights, we'll have a board meeting that night.
MSBA has a recommendation or suggestion, dates with meeting restrictions, and Veterans Day is a no meeting day. President's Day is a no meeting day. And there's a lot of other ones. Labor Day, Election Day.
Is Veterans Day on that?
Yeah, but it also has, if determined a school day and so reflected, I guess I didn't read this part, but if determined a school day and so reflected in the teacher's contract, at least 1 hour of school program must be devoted to patriotic observance of Veterans Day. It doesn't say anything about meeting or anything, but.
There's generally some story behind a lot of those kind of recommendations, and so, as much as I get, which I have no problem doing it on the 11th, or there might be a basis behind it that we're not considering right now, such as, you know, it is to review election results. What if a certifying official from the state wanted to stop in and see how we did that? I don't know. It wouldn't be on that day. I don't know.
They have no standing to do so anyhow, so.
Yeah, well, that's the discussion. Do we want to move the whole board meeting, or do we want to keep the board meeting on the first Monday and then just have a meeting to canvass the results the following week?
I have no hard opinion one way or the other. Is there somebody the 4th?
I'm past my big deadline, so I can make pretty much anything work.
I have off that day.
Tuesday the 12th?
I mean, it's generally been a 5-minute meeting.
No, I mean, if we want to just keep it to one meeting, do the
Or
board
you want to do a
meeting
whole
and
board
then-
meeting?
Yeah, so that saves trips in here and
Yeah, so,
saves.
say this, but the problem I have with Tuesday the 12th is that's a normal Legion meeting, and it's the 100-year celebration for our Legion.
Cool.
Will be that evening.
So you're not going to be here? No.
I would not be here if it's on the 12th. So, and not having your clerk here for an election canvas probably isn't the right thing to do. Just saying.
Any
Can
other
you
thoughts?
do 3 minutes on the 12th?
Probably. It's always gonna be the canvas.
I would propose then, regular board meeting on the 4th and canvas on the 12th.
So canvassing meeting on the 12th. I'll give it a time.
What time is Mark's get together?
It's 6.
So
10 for 6 right now, but who knows? I mean, what do you want to meet, 5:30?
That's what we're wondering.
I can do 5:30.
You're driving.
I know, that's a tight, I'll make it work. I'll make it work, okay,
I can make that work.
5:30,
So 5:30
12.
on the 12th. Canvassing board meeting.
Is it truly 5 minutes?
Yeah.
Literally.
Okay.
Show up and.
Yep. Okay. We don't need to vote on that, do we?
I think it's
Do we need to vote on it?
administrative, okay, you're the clerk, you know.
So we have a motion to move our canvassing meeting to Tuesday, November 12th at 5:30. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Brings us to item number 11, adjournment. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you.